We've weathered weeks of quarantine, and so we figured it was time for some inspiration, some lemonade for those lemons we're all sucking. So we turned to our friend Jill, who runs a small company, 6 staffers plus 4 freelancers, because when the country shutdown took her business with it, she was faced with the choice to panic or persevere. As she tells us, all of her personal pursuits and her commitment to self-care kept her out of panic and guided her pivot, which has kept her company afloat, even thriving. We think you'll find our conversation about how your internal state of being influences your external world as inspiring as we have. One note, like most of the world, we're still Zooming, and like most media made in these corona days, we're evolving to longer-term solutions. We just wanted to let you know that we're on it, and we'll be making sure that the clarity of our recordings match that of our conversations very soon. Hang in there. It's worth it. Here we go.
Hi, this is EJ from Your Practical Magic, and we are so excited to be interviewing Jill Strickman today. Jill is a dear friend of mine. We met when our sons were going to middle school together, and we just had this soul connection. Jill is a successful entrepreneur, businesswoman who owns a company called Genuine Real People. Jill is always sharing knowledge with me. It's amazing that's part of your business, is sharing stories as well. Hi, Jill.
Hello. My business is we find real people for well-known brands, for everything from Super Bowl commercials to highly nuanced healthcare testimonials to viral content, creating content that millions of people see. And that involves finding real people with compelling stories that are in alignment with brands or testimonials that use the brand.
I brought to Jennifer and Noreen your story because in this time where everything's so uncertain and people are kind of freaking out about not only money, but their business, and being responsible for staff, your business traditionally was working with agencies and live shoots, which aren't happening right now. How are you adapting, and how are you feeling with business and your life, and how has your journey with mindfulness and other modalities helped you to cope?
So where shall I begin? The first thing I have said to many friends in conversation is all the work I've done through mindfulness, spirituality, therapy, everything, which is a lot, has really paid off this time around. I'll explain why. I have also lived through other big events such as 9/11, where I lived 8 blocks from the World Trade Center and was pregnant and had my business there as well. And Sandy, I had been evacuated twice. I have been through very disruptive events. And this is another one, very different kind than the past ones where things happen and then it's recovery, where this is spread out. Early in February, I was following the news about China and looking at all these mathematical and science models. So my awareness was a week or two before everybody else's. As a result, I stocked up in my freezer. Nothing was out because I was buying before everybody else.
Toilet paper? Did you hit the toilet paper?
Toilet paper, masks, gloves. I had everything. I had everything early. Now it's starting to run out.
It's intriguing already to me that you were a week ahead of the game. You were paying attention to, like you said, models and things that were going on. Why do you think that?
That's interesting. At the time, I think I felt alerted. Fear is my go-to emotion. Let's start by saying that. I am a very fearful and anxious person at my core, and that is why I've come to all these modalities and have connections with Noreen and EJ and just about how to work on all that. I wanted to say that up front.
Yeah, really, the classic definition of courage is action in the face of fear.
Yes.
Not in the absence of it, right?
Yes, I love that. And you know what else I love is the symbol for crisis in Chinese is emergency and opportunity.
Interesting.
So I think because I've lived through other major historic events in New York City, I've had lots of fear. So I always have that stuff protective in case.
So you're meaning you're integrating these things and they're driving your choices.
Yeah, I guess it's like being prepared for the worst and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And knowing we're going to be somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I'd say the fear, but it wasn't crazy, but motivated me to prepare, which I did. So that was good.
Did you have a sense of inevitability, like this is coming to New York, or were you, let me just make sure that I'm covered in case?
I definitely think it would come to New York. And also since January, I had started like 2020, my year of health and wellness. You know, I stopped gluten, dairy, and soy and was in a sleep study. So I've been doing all these intensive things for my health. And thank God, because I came into this in terms of the whole health fear, feeling the healthiest that I have in years. The only thing we can do right now, besides like social distancing, and is work on our health to keep our immunity up.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of thinking about my business, we slowed down majorly in March. We were finishing some projects, but nothing was happening. And then, you know, the lockdown happened. I actually stopped going to the office a week before the lockdown because I had like a little scratchy throat and a little, I think it was allergies, but I was a little nervous, like, like that's like the first thing. Am I getting sick? I mean, I think we all have those feelings, and EJ, you've had to experience that firsthand. Basically, all our clients are either ad agencies, direct to brand, or production companies. We find the people and they go and shoot them and make this wonderful, moving, beautiful content. So the fear that came into place was, one, oh my God, I have 6 full-time employees and then another 4 seasonal freelancers on our payroll. We didn't have enough money to last more than, let's say, 2 to 4 week window. So I was trying to figure out what to do. The pivot, when this happened, I immediately thought about 4 projects where we guided real people through creating user-generated content. So what that means is they either use their phones and they shoot it themselves, or they have a loved one or a friend shoot it, and we send them questions, we send them instructions on how to light it, sort of a do-it-yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go back and say, okay, that was great, but let's try it this way. So we had 4 examples of content with well-known brands using user-generated content. Right away, we sent out like 275 emails to our VIPs that we wanted to present an idea, user-generated content, and explained user-generated content, showed them 3 of the 4 spots. Everyone's trying to figure out what to do and trying to assess how to move forward. We had something that we had experience in that we could offer as a solution in this situation. We were getting a lot of calls to have discussions. How would this work if we wanted to do this? But it wasn't a job.
It was the beginning.
It was the beginning.
People were receptive to what you were putting out.
It's like, here's an idea. If you want to talk about it, give us a call. If you're listening to me and saying, wow, she just pivoted fast. You know what's interesting throughout this whole thing? I have very much stayed in the moment, which is something I've learned through mindfulness and all this meditation. Also, I'm surrounded by a lot of very smart people who think they know things that we don't know. Either they're catastrophizing or minimizing. I felt kind of comfort in being smart and knowing what's going on, but knowing that we really don't know a lot.
What you're saying is you use your mindfulness, you've used an array of tools, and we're always talking about a toolbox here on Your Practical Magic, because different things work for different moments. And this idea of being prepared and taking a look at these models that some people without a metaphysical or spiritual or even mindful awareness are considering absolute. But when we show up to these situations as individuals and as a community, as a populace, and want to get something done, we brought those models down, even under a lot of strife. Yeah, they're projections, and maybe they might have been right. And maybe a lot of people want to say that they were wrong. But I think it's almost a metaphor for what you're sharing with us about yourself and your business, that in showing up, you end up mitigating what could be the worst.
Yes. And also this idea you're saying, taking action, business women, I think, are fixers. That's a quality in order to be successful.
Right.
Sometimes that gets criticized, like, you're always trying to fix everything. To make plans and take actions really does comfort me. So here's a good example of my business. In terms of thinking how long we could last, I have a business manager, and I said to her, like, I was dreading it. I was dreading the conversation. We're not getting any work. How long can I go? So we got on the phone, and I was thinking like a 1-month plan. I was so in the present, I wasn't thinking very far ahead. She came up with a 3-month plan. She said, all right, here's April, May, and June. And this is how much money we have coming in. This is how much money, if we cut down things to a third of the amount of business. We have a credit line. I've had situations where I've had to go into my credit line when I got divorced or when we were slow. I've done it twice and I've paid it back twice. So I did have some confidence saying, I'm okay right now if we have to go into our credit line. So she came up with a 3-month plan based on some basic assumptions that made sense. So I'm like, let's do this. And then the next thing we did was a Zoom meeting. We called it the Brady Bunch meeting with, right, with all the boxes. And we gathered everybody who was scared. Everyone's getting furloughed and laid off and no one knew what was coming. I said, everybody's going to have their jobs for at least 3 months. And so everyone kind of took a deep breath,
Right.
Well, right. That was such authentic leadership, Jill. That's such a great lesson for us. We talk about authenticity a lot on the podcast.
And integrity.
And I think being super honest with your staff, this is where it's at right now. And sharing feels like such a great lesson for people. Really good leadership.
Kind of Cuomo-esque.
Well, Cuomo has been my go-to.
He's your patron saint of the pandemic.
Yes, I listen to him every day. So I feel like I know what's going on, at least in New York. I'm looking at the headlines a little bit, some business newsletters, but I try to limit it because if I don't, it makes me anxious.
We were talking about that a little bit too. It's about getting the information you need and not anything that makes you spin or feeds fear and anxiety.
So much is sensationalized.
Jill, when you gave that Zoom call, did you do any grounding or do anything for yourself? Were you scared to deliver this news?
Actually, before I was really anxious was more the call discussing the hard numbers.
To know what the truth was.
I found a lot of comfort in just knowing for 3 months we were going to be okay. At the end of June, again, I will reevaluate financially. Beyond that, I'm trying to stay present and go out 3 months. March was terrible. I'm in negative. And we're having all these conversations, proposals, and this and that, but nothing's kind of coming in. And I'm still like, okay, got my 3-month plan. And then whoosh, good news. We got 3 jobs over the course of like a week for well-known brands, very well-known brands. And then the following week got 2 more. They're COVID response ads. So they have to be very fast, get them done very quickly. I had everyone up and running. Like overnight, it shifted.
The creativity to pivot and not just be wallowing in my business is stuck or I'm stuck and I can't do this. You just moved very quickly to a new strategy.
We had something we could offer, and I think it will probably be an ongoing solution due to the fact that we don't know how open we're going to be able to be. There's that whole unknown. In terms of a quick pivot, the idea came to me because I wasn't stuck in fear. When I'm a little more freed up, ideas come. Whereas when I'm stuck in fear, the executive functioning in the frontal lobe shuts off. So the solution came to me, and then it was about how do I communicate that idea in a way that's helpful.
You were saying earlier about women being pegged as fixers. Here you are. We can fix this problem. You have a problem and we have a solution.
Yeah, here's a possible solution that may or may not work for you, but you should know about it. Yeah. It's like a toolbox thing. We can be a tool. We can help make this happen and do it in a way that's legal and secure from a business perspective so that you're not going to have stuff biting you in the butt on the other side of it.
And do you see this as a new service that you offer post-pandemic, or is it something adaptive to this time?
So I do think going forward, it's going to continue. It was happening before, and I think it will continue to be needed. But right now, it's a real solution. Contact without touching.
Socially connected, but not physically produced.
Yes. So I feel excited by all of it. Getting the projects, it's a lot of work. It's very labor intensive, and it's a lot of work and a lot of detail to do it right. One of our first spots, we saw a rough cut on Friday. It was really fun to see. We found real people in all different walks of life to shoot themselves in this very specific format, and it works. It's cool. It's fun.
Oh, that's so cool.
So how does that feel?
It's exciting to be part of their teams because they come up with things that I hadn't thought of, but we can help make it happen. It feels exciting to be part of that.
Are you finding your staff needs more guidance, or that they're scared, or that you're helping them through this with your knowledge?
Number one, going into this, staff I have is excellent, top-notch staff, and they're very committed and loyal. And I think there's a tremendous relief considering what's going on around us. So I think people feel grateful to be working, and then they're just good at their jobs. So
it sounds like you've got it down and the pivot is complete, really. And you have a new groove, even if it means being responsive to unexpected things.
Yes, all these jobs are ending at the end of the month. So we have to have another wave in. So we're starting over, which is the nature of my business anyway. So it's not like, oh, we pivoted and now I don't have to worry.
It's a constant evolution.
Yes, this pivot did work and there's confidence and hope.
It's believe.
We talk about intuition. It sounds like you did a lot of work on your fear and anxiety, which can interfere with intuition. Do you have any examples? You found like you just got this thing and you just knew that this is the answer and you really kind of had to go with it, even though you didn't have the facts that you normally like to have to feel like you're steady with what you're about to do?
I think in order to really have intuition and act on intuition, we need to be in that space to receive it. You know what I mean? Sometimes an idea just comes to you. That's like my favorite thing in the world. That was how this was. So I think staying out of fear and having the tools to shift, because we're going to go in and out of it all the time.
I also love because it's nurturing that expansion of receiving the intuition and this, in particular, this idea. And you knew that it happened because you weren't in that constricted, fearful, anxious place.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
The other thing with my staff that I have done, which I think they laugh at me, everyone's giving away all this mindfulness stuff for free. So 10% Happier has a weekday 3:00 chat with meditation teachers, renowned meditation teachers. I send them emails like, take a 5-minute break. You got to get your exercise in. And,
I love that though, because you're walking your walk,
yeah.
You're really encouraging them.
Take care of yourself and sending recipes. When I got an air fryer, I became like, oh my God, this is the best of clients ever. So I sent the air fryer to several of them.
That's great. That's awesome.
Awesome role model and example and inspiration.
Thank you. It's very flattering to be thought of as an inspiration because I'm always seeking inspiration and motivations.
Absolutely. And on the topic of inspiration, we have a few questions to ask you that we ask everybody. It's our homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. And it's funny, our first question is, would you share a favorite time when the practical and the magic collided in your life? But I feel like that's what we just spent the last 20 minutes talking about, but there might be something else. So sorry, not to give it as a backwards question.
I do think this is an example where the magic was seeing the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then I'm going to move on. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, I know what one is to self-love and self-care in such basic ways. That's taken me a really long time to really understand what that means and to make sure that my oxygen mask is on and I can feel good and I can take care of myself, and it will help me take care of other people instead of taking care of other people and being so depleted. So that's number one. And number two is knowing your highest value as a person and your strengths. And then especially in business, surround yourself with people who have the ability to do things that you can't do, that you're not good at. And other knowledge and wisdom that will help you, because we're not good at everything. We're all not able to see all different perspectives.
Your 20-year-old self is grateful. I can tell.
Yeah. I wish I had learned it. It took me a lot of years to those things.
Where do you see yourself 20 years into the future?
I'm calculating how old I am. I see myself living someplace that is more nature-based than Manhattan, and being in a community of like-minded but an interesting. When I say like-minded, it doesn't mean someone has to agree with me. I just mean people who are interested in learning and moving and being out in the world and the practical, the spiritual, being in community. I think that's, and also being stimulated, having projects, whether I'm in a new business or some project where I'm working on something towards.
I love that. First of all, I love the distinction that like-minded is not about having these same ideas. So thanks for saying that. I think not enough people dig into that, and that's really very cool. And I also want to mention that I just read yesterday about a 99-year-old literary publisher who's starting a new company in the middle of all of this.
Whoa.
Love him.
Yay.
Right.
What is the new company?
It's another publishing company.
Oh, a new.
He initially published Kerouac, and he's publishing new people now. He's a literary agent bringing new writers that he's discovering through the pandemic.
Wow, wonderful.
Okay, what is your favorite time of day?
That's a good question. I think the morning, because I'm freshest. I'm fresh in the morning with a contingency that I slept well. I like morning light. I like light, being exposed to different times of light. So I think the morning I'm the freshest and clearest and energetic. And then in the evening, I like the light, like when the light goes down and it's dark too. And it's a more calm and, more intimate and spiritual time.
What is your best new discovery? However you want to interpret that.
It just sounds funny. So I just got a Peloton bike.
Oh, sweet.
And I am able to get on it in the morning and sweat. And that really makes a huge difference for me chemically and emotionally and shifting, even spiritually shifting my energy. So it's really the discovery in what sweating in the morning does. I'm saying it like a brand, but it's true.
No, I love that. I'm intrigued, actually. It's pretty cool. I've been using a rebounder, and it's not really making me sweat, but the physical presence of it is amazing. I get you.
I think elevating my heart rate and sweating, there is something so healing about that. I've always been in yoga and this and that, but I don't necessarily always sweat. And there is a lot now about elevating your temperature or cooling down your temperature. There's a lot of health benefits that are being talked about now, like whether it's taking hot baths or infrared saunas or cold plunges or cold showers or sweating.
So what brings you home?
Home now for me is in my own body. That's what I would say it is, when I can calm down my nervous system.
Yeah.
I just love that answer. You can feel it in your own body.
Oh,
yeah.
But we've talked a lot about the nervous system, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the nervous system is our truth, where we are.
So good. When you say it's the truth, it's really the energetic truth. That's how we feel our energy. It's really in that nervous system. It's amazing. It's really, really astute. Okay. Who would play you in a movie?
Oh, that's so funny. I don't identify with any actor right now. Someone like Meryl Streep, in terms of her strength and range of emotion and feeling. Someone like her.
Okay, last question. What's your favorite word?
Feel. My favorite word is feel. Like, how do you feel?
I love that.
Yeah.
Jill, thank you.
Thank you so much.
This was an honor. Thank you.
It really was our honor. That's this episode of Your Practical Magic. Thanks for being here with us. Please remember to like and share on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And go to @YourPracticalMagic on Instagram or Facebook for visuals on all of our doses and more. Please like and share there too.